Okay, once again, the sun is really sunning today over here, but I think it's literally like our last day of sunshine that we are supposed to have. I was looking ahead at the rest of the week. Like today, it's like high of 60, and then it's gonna be like 30s and 40s. Probably until like April. So I am thoroughly enjoying the sun again. I know it can be a little annoying, but honestly, just let me like sunbathe, okay? So today I want to talk about books that I have been anxious to reread, because here's the thing, is there not a higher compliment for a book than one that you want to keep on reading, even when you know that your TBR is like a mile and a half long? Because that's how mine is, and I often feel guilty. I used to reread books all the time. That's all I did. I feel like up until probably like 2019, because I just like would fall in love with the book and that's all I would want to read, and I'd reread it like every year. I'd revisit it all the time. However, once I started doing YouTube, then I kind of stopped rereading because I almost felt like then I was like wasting my time because I wasn't finding new books for like content. Now, I kind of want to get back into it. I still obviously love doing YouTube videos, but now that I'm writing too, you know, like I just have other things that I have going on that it's like me reading 200 books a year is not like my highest priority in life anymore. I want to reread some of these books, and I want to chat, and I want to know what are some books that you want to reread, because like I said, if you want to reread it, clearly it was a good one. So these are the ones that are just top of mind right now that I'm just constantly thinking about, and I'm like, you know what, I'd really like to revisit that again. And they're in no particular order. I just picked them off my shelf. So anyways, let's go ahead and dive in. So first up is Savage Lover. Oh, what's gonna be the best way to hold these? I don't know. I could just put the image in on the screen, but I hate doing that. And I already pulled these off of my shelf, so like I'm already gonna have to restock them all. So maybe we'll do it over here. Savage Lover by Sophie Lark. This is the third book in the Brutal Birthright series, and this is by far my favorite one. And ever since I finished reading it, I have just been wanting to reread it. I love Nero and Camille so much. They are my favorite couple from this series, and I just really enjoyed the plot of this one. I'm not really going to be going like in-depth summaries on any of these books because it's not necessarily like a rec video. I'm just going to kind of tell you like why I might want to reread them and as such. And with this one specifically, it just gives me such like Dom and Letty energy from the Fast and Furious series. And I remember when I was reading this for the first time, I went into it with pretty low expectations because everyone like does not like this book in this series. And I can understand why, because it does really take a step back from the mafia world, and it's more like a bank heist and race car driving and fun stuff like that. But that's why I like loved this book, was for those elements, and specifically for Nero and Camille. And I just really love like a bad boy who ends up just turning good for the one girl, but he's like still bad with her. Their chemistry was just like my favorite, and I just really want to be back with them again. This whole book was just fun. It was just a fun book. And next, the reason that I'm even doing this video in the first place, because I'm currently rereading it, and that is the Devil's Night series by Penelope Douglas. And I grabbed these are the Mystic Box editions, but my paperbacks were like under a stack of other Penelope books, and quite frankly, I was like, I can just grab these a lot easier. So I want to reread Kill Switch and Nightfall. So I have been rereading them on audio. My Hoopla has all the audiobooks for these, and I have been loving them. So I've reread Corrupt and Hideaway. Hideaway is still my favorite, but Corrupt I loved even more this second time around. And now I've already started rereading Kill Switch. This is my other favorite of the series, Damon and Winter's book. And this, I just forgot about so many elements of this series. So the first time I read it was back at the beginning of 2020. So over 3 years ago now that I read these, and I just like forgot a lot of the plot things that happened. And I was still trying to like piece together, even as I was listening to Corrupt again. I was like, wait, when does like this certain storyline come into the mix? And it almost feels like a new experience rereading these, but at the same time, it's so familiar, and I'm just loving that. And specifically, I'm really excited for this one because I remember the first time that I read Kill Switch being just completely blown away by Damon's redemption arc, and just truly wondering how I could hate a character so much to then being like, I would literally do anything for you. And that's how I felt with Kill Switch. And also, I just cannot wait to reread the scene of when he shows Winter colors. Ugh, it's it's so good and I'm so excited to be rereading it. And then also then with Nightfall too. So this is the last book in that series. And honestly, I don't remember like anything about Nightfall except for like the train scene. And like, that's it. I like barely remember anything about this book. I don't know why. Like I liked it when I read it. I think I like blacked out reading it honestly because I had been like waiting for it, like anticipating it for so long. So I don't know. I want to give this one a go because genuinely I feel like it's going to be a completely new experience again. So very excited to reread that. Now this one is one that I actually read this year and I was waiting until I had this physical copy so that way I could go through and annotate it, and now I have it and I don't have an excuse not to reread it, and that is Even If It Hurts by Marnie Mann. Honestly, my emotional state right now, I don't think I'm like, I could handle this book just where I'm at and what this book means to me, but guys, if you remember back when I read this book, I was so messed up after finishing this. And this is not like that messy of a book, okay? It's truly not. Like, even some of my friends who've read this book, they're like, I would have never recommended that one to you and like thought that it would have like impacted you that way. And I'm like, cause I don't think, like, it truly hit me on a personal level that I wasn't expecting it to, because this one is a love triangle and it follows a long distance relationship and like this girl studying abroad having this relationship, it ending when she goes back home, and then she finds someone else, and then years later gets connected. She never forgets about her first love, then she gets reconnected with her first love, but she's with this new guy, and it is just, it hit me, and I really want to reread it again, but like I said, I don't think I can handle it right now. But this book just truly, like, it brought up so many like personal feelings in me that I just like, I need to experience that again, honestly. I kind of like hurting. It hurts. So I loved this one. This was my first Marnie Mann. Was it my first Marnie Mann book? No, I think I read The Lawyer first, but truly this book is like genuinely one of my favorites of all time. This might be my top book of the year. It's battling it out with like 2 other books, and we'll see what wins out, but genuinely I can't wait to reread this and annotate it. And, or not really, I don't really annotate. It's more like just like highlight, you know, and more just like tab certain parts that I like. Okay, another one that I read last year and just absolutely loved this book, and I just kind of want to feel that same feeling that it gave me again, and that's The Words by Ashley Jade. So this is a huge, thick, so many tropes, like rock star, friends to enemies to lovers, hate to love, angst, forced proximity, plus size heroine. Like, there's just a lot going on in this book. And truly, this entire journey is so worth it with these characters. So I absolutely love this one, that you start out at the beginning, you see how their bond forms, and then there's this betrayal, and then now you're in like the present day with them and with these characters. And Phoenix is in such a bad place. He's a rock star bad boy, and I just love a bad boy rock star. And he's in such a bad place, and seeing Lennon come on board and see them kind of find a neutral ground again, and then start to like have feelings for each other again. But then she gets thrown for a loop, and I just truly, what I loved most about this book was seeing how Lennon had to be there for Phoenix through his hard times, and then how Phoenix repaid Lennon by being there for her during her hard times. It was beautiful, and I just like the angst and the tension and everything about this book. Like, I remember every time I sat down to read it, I just was so excited about it, and I just want to like feel that again. And also kind of similar to like Nightfall and Killswitch, I kind of forget, I remember like the overarching picture of this book, but I don't really remember like the small moments between them, and I just want to like re-experience those, because that's what I love the most, I think, in books, is those small moments the characters have with each other, where you just truly see them starting to like find a new level of appreciation and a new love for the other person just in the little moments of life. And I don't really remember any of those between them, and I just want to see that again. But it is a thick boy, and that's honestly why I haven't reread it yet, because it is so thick. It's 650 pages, but so good. Now this next one is one that I literally just read like a month ago, and I already want to reread, actually 2 months ago, I think back in September, because it was September's pick. Garen Park by Nordica Knight. If you guys have seen any of my videos over the last like 2 months, then you have already heard me talk about this book, because I'm so fucking obsessed with these two. And again, they are battling Even If It Hurts for top book of the year along with another one, but I can't get enough of these two, and this is just how hate to love should be done. I think I don't think I could ever write a hate to love book as good as this one, because it's just truly, the hate is so visceral and then the love is so good. And even like when they start hooking up, because even like at the end of the book here, they're still like beating each other up and giving each other shit all the time, and it's just, their connection is electric, and I just want to re-experience that again. This truly is like a phenomenal book. I have not a single complaint about this book whatsoever, and I feel like that's rare. You know, I think that's rare for anyone to not have like any slight thing that you would change, because obviously there are other books that I've read that I loved, but it's like, maybe didn't like love that part as much, or like I would have maybe switched like this around. This book, literally not a single thing wrong with it. It is fantastic, and I just want to reread it already, and then I want to like tab my favorite parts, that way I can like go back and look at them. Honestly, I want to tab it every single time that they grab each other's throats and like pin each other to something, because they do that all the time, and I am the biggest sucker for a throat grab and like pushing. So obviously not, and like don't do that to just like random people, but you know, like when the tension is there between like two characters romantically, and they grab each other's throats and like pin them up against a wall, shut up. Love it. Next up, I got 3 books, and I'm going to talk about them individually, kind of why I want to reread them all, but I actually think I might be rereading these on audio next once I finish rereading the Devil's Night series. I think these are going to be my next audiobooks, because I think I've kind of finally realized that maybe like new audiobooks aren't for me, but my path to like rereading my favorites is audios. So, oh, just knocked that over. First up, I want to reread Twisted Love by Anna Huang, the first book in the Twisted series. This was in my top 10 books of 2021, so it's been like 2 years since I've read it. Absolutely loved this book, like one of my favorite brother's best friend books ever. Alex Volkov can get it anytime he would want. And I mostly want to reread this because here's the thing. I think I like blacked out a little bit, and I don't remember some of the moments in here. Like when people talk about Alex singing, I do not remember that in the slightest. And I mostly just want to see if I still love them the second time around, because here's the thing, whenever Alex would pop up in any of the other books throughout the series, I would get like this giddy feeling of being like, there's my man. And I want to reread him in like his full glory. So I want to reread this one. Honestly, again, I kind of feel like I remember certain parts of this story, but like the ending is a little fuzzy to me. I know that he has to grovel a lot, and I think that's where he sings. But anyways, I just want to give this one a reread because it truly was like one of my favorites. And it still is one of my favorites, but I just want to like have a fresher experience with it. And then next up, I want to reread Twisted Games, which is book 2, because here's the thing. I gave every single book in the Twisted series 5 stars. I absolutely love all of these books. However, Twisted Games was my least favorite. And I want to know why, because this is like everyone's favorite. And I want to know, what was it about it that like, even though I still loved it, why didn't I love it as much as other people? And I want to know, like, did I miss something? I don't know if I appreciated like Reese's character as much the first time around. So, because I remember really liking Bridget and liking obviously like the royalty aspect and the princess aspect and like the politics and stuff. But I genuinely can't tell you a single thing about Reese as a character. So I want to reread it and like see what I think the second time around. Obviously, I'm still expecting to love it, but I just want to know like if I garner a bigger appreciation for the book as a whole, and like Reese specifically. And then last up, because they are my literal favorites, that is Twisted Hate. I want to reread this one. Because here's the thing, I love this book, and I feel like arguably this one is a lot of people's least favorite because they don't like Josh. I loved Josh, and I loved Jules, and I loved their dynamic. And again, an enemies to benefits book that, or enemies with benefits book that like just does it right. Like the hate is so good, and like even when they start hooking up, they still like despise each other, and it's so well done. And I just specifically remember really loving like Jules's character individually, really loving Josh's character individually, and I just want to like re-experience them. I do remember there was like that subplot at the end with like the painting that I didn't love, but I want to re-experience it again and just kind of like see what I think the second time around, because this couple, like this book specifically, ended up being my favorite one in the series despite not like loving that plot line, because of everything else in the book just kind of like overshadowing that for me. So I want to see if it still reigns supreme for me. And you might notice I don't have Twisted Lies on this list. That's just because I just read that, you know, when it came out last year, And I just feel like I don't need to do a reread on that one right now because it still feels like fresh in my mind. Next up, more series that I want to get back into, but specifically just 2 books out of this like huge ass series, which is I want to reread for 2 of the Born in Blood Chronicle books. So Bound by Honor by Cora Riley. This is book 1. This is Luca and Arya's book. This is just where it all started, and I just want to go back and like revisit that feeling that I got the first time that I read this. I think I read this book back in 2019 or 20, like early 2020. This was like very early on in my reading journey, and I feel like this has really shaped my mafia tastes because it is just like old school Italian, like Godfather type mafia. Now I'm saying that I don't actually know like what the real mafia is like, but this just feels like old school mafia to me, okay? And I just like love that. I'm just like, I really want to revisit this world again, and specifically these 2 because they are like, I feel like in my head, the matriarch and patriarch of this entire, of like Cora Riley's mafia world. So I just want to revisit it again, okay? I just love it. And then the other one that I specifically want to reread out of that is Bound by Hatred. This is actually my favorite one that I remember from the Born in Blood Chronicles. This is Matteo and Gianna, the brother and sister of, well, not like brother and sister, Arya's sister and Luca's brother. And Matteo is crazy, and I think he is what truly kind of helped shape my love for just absolutely psychotic men, because he is a little crazy, but he's fun. Like, he's like funny about it. He's like laughing as he's like twirling his knife, like messing with someone, and it's just like, I eat that up. It's so fun to read. I don't know how else to describe it. And Gianna, and again, we have can you sense a theme? I love when they hate each other, and they absolutely hate each other. Gianna doesn't want anything to do with the mafia, and she runs and he catches her, and it's so good. And then when he finds out though about certain things, then he's like kind of gentle with her a little bit, but he's like still a psycho. It's just like, this was just so freaking good, and I just want to reread it. And again, these audiobooks are on my Hoopla, so again, I think I will probably reread them that way. But honestly, I just like want to reread this one right now. Like, they were just so good together because they're just like, they're both just explosive personalities. To then see them interact with each other, it's so good. I don't know what else to say. Except then I want to reread my favorite student teacher book of all time, which is The Unrequited by Saffron Kent. So I have not read this one. Again, I think I read it back in like 2019 or 2020. It was my first Saffron Kent book. And let me tell you, Layla was just nuts. And that, like, I just want to experience that again. And also because here's the thing, there are, student teacher is like my favorite trope, but I feel like I have not read a student teacher book in probably like the last year, like year and a half, that has just captured me in the way that this book did, and like dealt with the student teacher aspect of them like sneaking around. There's also cheating involved in it. Like, there's so many layers to this story on top of it being student teacher, but it also is very like student teacher focused, which I just love and I miss. I honestly miss like when student teacher books were written like this one, and I just want us to get back to that. And I know you guys want me to write one. I don't know if I have that in me. I think I've almost read too many of that trope. I'll never say never, but I just like, I truly just miss, I feel like this is like the golden days of student teacher books. And I'm hoping that like when I reread it, I'll get kind of like that semblance of that feeling back. And also, again, I don't really remember how this one resolves, because obviously what's-his-face, Thomas, has a wife, and I don't remember how that all goes down. So I want to reread that and remember that. Next up, my other favorite student teacher book, Sweet Dandelion by Macaulay Smeltzer. Now, I will be honest with you, I have been very scared of rereading this book because this truly is like, when I talk about like a favorite standalone book of all time, like obviously when I talk about favorite series, I say Off Balance, which you might be like, why haven't you included that yet? I've already read those reread those 3 times. So I'll reread them again in the future. But right now I did reread at the beginning of the year and I'm good right now. But when I say like favorite standalone romance, I pretty much always go to Sweet Dandelion. And that makes me nervous to reread it even more, because I'm like, what if it's not a favorite anymore? Like, what do I do? Then I feel like, it's kind of like when I started rereading the Devil's Night series. I was like, what if this doesn't hit the same? And I've just been like going around saying that these are like my favorite books for like the past 3 years. And then what if they're not anymore? And I'm kind of like, what if I don't end up loving this as much the second time around? I don't think that's gonna happen. It's just how it is. This book just meant so much to me the first time that I read it, and Danny's journey and her struggle with mental health, and just every single bit about the story, including like the ramifications, because again, it's a guidance counselor and student romance, and there are like genuine consequences about their relationship, and there is like a genuine fight between the two of them over like even pursuing their relationship to begin with, because they both know that it is wrong and know that like he could get caught, but they just can't help but bond and fall in love so genuinely. And I do really want to reread it badly, but it's just such a thick boy. It's such a thick boy. And like I said, I'm just kind of scared, but I will reread this book at some point. I can't not reread it ever, but I just love it. I just love it so much. Okay, we're down to our last 5 books, and these 3 kind of all go together hand in hand a little bit again, because I want to reread Addicted to You by Krista and Becca Ritchie. So this is Lily and Lowe's first book in the Addicted series. I did an entire reading vlog for the Addicted / Calloway Sisters series last summer, and I had like the best time, and these ended up being my top books of the year last year. And I want to reread specifically like where all of the couples started again, because I remember so many moments of this one of just loving Lily and Lo. And I remember like the Halloween party and like that kind of like breaking my heart, like watching Lo put himself in that situation and seeing Lily trying to cover for him, especially then when Connor and Reich kind of come to their rescue, and just seeing them both at such a low in their life, and then knowing like in my head that they get such like a happy ending at the end. I just want to go back. What does that say about me that I want to go back to when they're at their lowest points? I don't know, but I do. And I just want to reread it. Then same with Kiss the Sky. This was my top book of last year. Rose and Connor are just like a god tier couple for me. And again, I want to re-experience this book. This was one where, again, genuinely, I had not a single complaint about this book. But again, I can't really remember how it ended. What is wrong with me that I can't remember how any of these books end? Because I remember like they're doing this reality TV show and stuff, and there's all this stuff with Rose and Connor, and like their slow burn kind of like rivals to lovers, second chance, or like third, fourth, fifth chance if you're talking about them. Rose just truly was such a special character to me, and I loved reading Connor too, because he's just such a cocky dick. And like that in real life, I would be like, you suck. Like, I do not like you. I do not want to be around you, because I know I would not have the intellect to keep up with him. However, reading about it in a book and watching Rose keep up with that intellect is so fun. So fun. They're my favorites, and I want to reread it. And then Hot House Flower. You want to know why I want to reread this one specifically? Because of the one scene with the, what is it? A mob or whatever after the rugby game. If you've read it, you know what I'm talking about. And I want to reread it just to experience that moment again, because I remember being like, Reich, don't make me cheat on Lo and Connor with you. Don't make me cheat. And I loved it. So again, I just want to see like these couples that, again, now that I've read like their kids' books now, I just want to like go back to where it all started. So want to reread those. And then my last 2, I want to reread Unconditional by QB Tyler. So I don't know when I read this one. I read it for a Banned Forbidden Taboo reading vlog. And here's the thing with it. Y'all know how much I love QB Tyler. She has written some of my favorite books. I have read every single book that she's ever released, and I have never not liked one. However, this one is at like the bottom of, like if I was ranking her books, I would put this one towards the bottom. It was not my favorite when I read it. I think I gave it like 3.5 or 4. I think I gave it 3.5 rounded up to 4 stars. But I don't know why I didn't click with this one as much, because I love her really taboo books, clearly. But there was something about this one that I just like didn't find myself connecting with, and I want to reread it and kind of see why, or see like what I missed. Because also, not that I read this like super early on in my taboo journey, because I had already read Love Unexpected by her, and I think I had read some other ones at this point, but I don't think I had read maybe as many like similar to this kind of age gap, and then like Guardian Ward situation. So I'm like, was I being like a judgy bitch on here? I don't know. I just want to reread it and kind of see if I like it better the second time around, or, you know, if this is just one of hers that is just not for me. I don't know, but I need to give Cal and Maddie another chance. I really need to give them another chance. So, because like I said, it's not that I didn't like it, it's just it wasn't my favorite of hers. So I want to keep going. Also though, let me tell you, her new release, Worst Kept Secret, have not stopped thinking about it since I finished that. I finished it, I don't even know what the date is. I probably finished it like a week ago. Y'all, Theo was so hot. I didn't think that, James and Gabrielle still have not been topped as a couple, as a book. That's still my favorite book of hers. However, Theo himself though, James, you've been dethroned. Anyways, last book that I want to reread is Forbidden by Tabitha Suzuma. There has not been, I'd say probably a week in my life that has gone by that I have not thought about this book since I read it back in 2020. I did this for my very first Banned Forbidden Taboo reading vlog. I remember going into this book thinking I was absolutely going to hate it because I had never read a book like this before. It is a brother and a sister. Please don't get in the comments. It's obviously not for everyone. I'm not toting it to be like a recommendation that I would recommend to all people. However, I really didn't think that I would like this book, and I was proven so wrong. And it is literally one of the most heartbreaking books I've ever read in my entire life. I sobbed after reading this. I remember in that vlog, I finished it and then I was like crying and I'm like, I'm gonna go shower. I went and I cried in the shower. I came back out. I like did my skincare, you know, whatever, got ready for bed and like got ready to do like my final check-in, and I was still crying. I still think about this book all the time. It is truly just one of those books that has stuck with me, and it's one that I've been scared to revisit because of that heartbreak, and I think especially like knowing things at the beginning of it. I just don't know how I'm going to handle it, but I really want to reread it because it's just one of those books that it reminds me why I love reading, because it can impact so deeply and it really makes you like question. I love kind of like questioning myself and questioning my morals when I'm reading something, kind of being, and just not like saying that I'm like for this romance, but it just made me think of it and be like, oh my God, like it really made me question things. Okay, I feel like I can't fully articulate like what I'm trying to say about that book when I'm just saying that it truly like it was just insane to me. So anyways, okay. That's all the books that I want to reread, and I know that there are probably more, but those are just the ones that like right now, if I had the opportunity where it was like the Kindle crashed, let's say like Kindle Unlimited crashed and I could only like pick books off of my shelves to reread. Well, that's saying that I don't have any physical TBR. I do, but let's say I was just forced to sit down and reread books. These would be the ones that I would pick right away. So anyways, that is it for today's video. I don't know what's going to be up Friday. I guess we'll see. You'll see when you see it. So anyways, that is it for today's video, and I will see you when I see ya.